Now, something interesting has happened over at Fox News. Some of their hosts are actually telling the truth about Donald Trump. Now, it all started with Chris Wallace on Sunday fighting it out with Steve Scalise over some of the witnesses being called to testify in the impeachment hearings. Take a look.
And the real bottom line is he got the money. Ukraine got the money,
well,
Chris.
First of all, a dozen people listened in on the phone call, and a number of them were immediately upset because what the president said about Burisma.
Well, those were Schiff's witnesses. But
wait a minute. No, sir. They're career Foreign Service officers, and these are people who worked in the Trump administration.
Schiff's witnesses. There are other witnesses.
You had a woman yesterday. You had a woman yesterday who was on Vice President Pence's staff. She said it was inappropriate. These are all people, you say they're Schiff's witnesses, they all were working in the Trump administration. But let me get back to my...
Well, no, some of them, they were not all Trump administration folks.
What, are you saying that the person working, Alexander Vindman, wasn't part of the Trump National Security Council?
The Inspector General said that the whistleblower had political motivations.
We're not talking about the whistleblower.
Had some serious concerns about
We're not talking about the whistleblower.
About all of these people that have come forward.
And we're talking about the
You've seen our list of who we've asked to testify.
But I'm asking you about these people who worked in the Trump administration.
Why don't we look at the three witnesses who actually did testify this week? All three of them were asked by whether it was John Ratcliffe or whether it was Chris Stewart. All three of them were asked, did you see any impeachable offenses? Did you see any bribery? Any of that? Not one of those things were mentioned. Not one person said he saw a crime committed.
Sir, with all due respect, with all due respect, that very badly mischaracterizes what they said.
All right, so that was a very interesting interaction between Steve Scalise and Chris Wallace. And so it's actually an argument where Chris Wallace is like, no, wait a minute. You're not just going to sit there and gaslight to my face. These are not Schiff's witnesses. These are people that work in the State Department. And that's true. That's Alexander Vindman. He said that Pence aide, which, by the way, now Mike Pence, the coward that he is, has distanced himself from that aide and said, oh, no. That's actually just a member of the State Department, not a close aide when it comes to foreign policy. No, I have nothing to do with their coffee point. Or I'm sorry, coffee boy or coffee woman, right? Well, okay, but that doesn't make your point. I mean, that's kind of ridiculous. So, I mean, what's going on here is here you have Steve Scalise coming out and defending Donald Trump, which Donald Trump loves, and Chris Wallace is actually just trying to be objective in this case, which is, I know, really strange for me to say, but that's actually what you're supposed to do if you're a journalist. And, you can have your opinions, but you have to be objective about the facts. And when it comes to the facts, here you have a clear case of the president doing something that is wrong and clearly impeachable, which, by the way, you don't actually have to do a crime to be impeached. You just have to basically, and the phrase that they specifically use is not coming to me right now. But basically, you can do things that look bad on the office, right? For example, lying in office, right? And not about like political stuff, but actually like lying to Congress, for example. That's an impeachable offense. Lying to committees, lying to investigators, that is definitely an impeachable offense that you could do. But okay, anyway. So now, following that, President Trump decided to go after Chris Wallace via tweet. And he said this: Steve Scalise blew the nasty and obnoxious Chris Wallace, will never be his father Mike, away on Chris's lowest rated, unless I'm on, morning show. This kind of dumb and unfair interview would have never happened in the Fox News past. Great job, Steve. Now, to be fair, Chris Wallace, again, I don't agree with him on anything, but he does have a history of going after both Democrats and Republicans fairly effectively, doing his, like I said, due diligence as somebody who's a journalist. Again, I don't agree with anything that Chris Wallace actually believes. He's deeply conservative, but at the same time, he's not one who's going to sit there and ignore the facts. So that's really kind of important, because you have somebody on Fox News that is actually challenging the president often when they actually do something wrong. Now, I love Donald Trump's response because this is what this is. It's peer projection, right? So now, always, Donald Trump goes after somebody, usually a male, and says, "Oh, you're not like your dad." Well, in this case, like I said, with Chris Wallace, right? Well, here's the thing. Peer projection. You know who also isn't their dad? Donald Trump. Or isn't at all like their dad, I should say. Unlike their son, the elder Trump was actually a competent businessman. Now, racist through and through. And that's, of course, something that he and his father have in common. But smart, competent, those are two things that Fred Trump definitely had. But Donald's he's never been very smart. He's run his businesses into the ground multiple times, went bankrupt 6 times. Now, every time when his father was alive, that happened. Daddy had to come bail him out. And I'm pretty sure Daddy wasn't happy about that. I'm pretty sure he'd be like, "What are you doing, dummy, sad, baby? Bankrupt your business again? You have to come to me?" I mean, look, he's a dummy. And his dad probably let him know that he's a dummy. And so he always talks about, "You're not your dad." Well, you're not your dad either. So peer projection. Okay. And then, of course, the other thing he mentions against Chris Wallace is ratings. What does that even matter? Did you have bad ratings? That's like somebody on Twitter saying, "Oh, you only have 100 followers. So what you have to say is automatically invalid." Well, that's ridiculous. Isn't that's a logical fallacy? I believe that's argumentum ad populum. So it's like, oh, because you don't have a crowd of people that agree with you, you must obviously be wrong. And I've got more people that agree with me and follow me, and then that means I must be right. No, that's not how that works. Definitely not how that works. So now, it wasn't just Chris Wallace, by the way, that challenged President Trump. It's also Neil Cavuto, who has been doing a decent job of actually challenging him in doing these monologues directed towards the president. I'm going to show you some clips of one such monologue. Take a look.
Is adamant that they all but indict the president. It's a pity the president didn't stick around to catch Chris just as aggressively going after Democratic Congressman and Intelligence Committee member Jim Himes, and the lack of any firsthand evidence implicating the president in anything. Now, while it's understandable not to like what you hear, Mr. President, it is not understandable to tune out what you should otherwise like very much to hear. Not just some of it, Mr. President, all of it. The things you like, and yes, the things you might not like. You are not the first president to say the media has it out for you. No less than press darling John F. Kennedy himself had his moments with the media. People will always see things through the prism of their own set of beliefs. I get that. Just like I get plenty of Trump supporters who call me a never-Trumper for getting into matters they don't like, and plenty of never-Trumpers themselves for giving any credit to a president they will never like. We can't please all. The best we can do as journalists is be fair to all, including you, Mr. President. That's not fake doing that. What is fake is not doing that. What is fake is saying Fox never used to do that. Mr. President, we have always done that.
All right. So, look, when it comes to the people that do straight news on Fox, yeah, okay, they have been fair. I mean, Andrew Napolitano is a great example. So he's been calling out Donald Trump for his impeachable offenses, for the things that he's done wrong for a long time. So you have Napolitano, you have Cavuto, and you have Chris Wallace. Now, of course, you have to contrast that with, of course, Sean Hannity, Jeanine Pirro, and Tucker Carlson, who are staunch Trump defenders. You have this another guy, I can't seem to think of his name right now, but the guy's like 100 years old and always defends him on Fox Business. You have those guys, but then again, you contrast it with the guys who are actually telling the truth. Now, this is important, right? Because this is going out to Fox News viewers. Now, Fox News viewers, again, Fox is the #1 rated television network in the United States. So that's important because they have a huge amount of reach, for good or bad, and we've seen mostly bad. But most people who watch Fox News don't really watch it like the hardcore Trumpers, right? The hardcore conservatives. A lot of people casually will watch it for the 10 o'clock news, for example, right? And so, look, that's what makes things like Sinclair Media so insidious, because they will take over the local news and insert propaganda into it, right? But nonetheless, you have a lot of people that will watch, the random segments, and some people will inevitably catch Chris Wallace, and some people will inevitably catch Andrew Napolitano when he's on Fox and Friends, by the way. And he was on there recently saying, no, what the president has done, clearly illegal, clearly impeachable, right? And so these people who don't necessarily follow the news all that much will get, will be able to see some of these segments. And that's important in shaping public opinion. And so it is important that these people actually do speak out. Lou Dobbs, thank you. I immediately, when people said, when I said 100 years old on Fox Business, people were like, Lou Dobbs. Thank you. Best audience in the world, by the way. All right. And so, nope, that's Stuart Varney. Stuart Varney is the British one. Also, giant defender of Donald Trump. So those people, again, I think the people that do, the straight news and analysis are massively outnumbered on Fox News by the opinion hosts that do nothing but Trump sycophancy. And so that is a huge, huge problem when it comes to Fox News. But nonetheless, there are some people that are getting reality, which is why you have results like the new ABC Ipsos poll on impeachment that had 70% of Americans saying that what Trump did, asking for that favor from the Ukrainians, was 100% wrong. It was wrong to do. And why you have 51% of Americans saying we should not only impeach but remove the president. That's huge. That's really big. And look, and there is roughly about 25 to 30% of the country that stands by Donald Trump right now. And this also goes to the political calculations when it comes to Republicans in the Senate. And so if that number continues to move, as it has barely, right, then, that's going to mean the difference between impeaching and removing the president and him staying on and possibly winning another term. So that is an important calculation. And look, one of the reasons that you see this shift, and you also see, for example, people saying, that the president did do something wrong and that he should be held accountable, and all that, is because you have people being reached by people that are, like Chris Wallace, that are actually saying facts about this case. Again, I don't agree with any of their politics, but they are actually correct on this issue and are actually consistent on this issue. And I know it's really strange. It makes it seem like I'm giving Fox News a ton of credit, but when in reality, I'm not giving any credit. I'm just pointing out how people are actually doing their jobs. And so, I am going to give, I'm not going to give them credit. I'm just going to point out the fact that they are doing their jobs. They are doing actual journalism. And saying that, I think, should be enough. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know how I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent, progressive media.